Since the inception of the United States of America, brave men and women have heeded the call of duty to protect the freedoms they hold dear by serving in the armed forces.
Everybody joined at that time. It was not too long after Pearl Harbor, and there was just that groundswell of patriotism, and you felt duty to your country. And Boston being a Navy town, it was only natural, I guess, that I joined the Navy.
So I always wanted to fly. And at that time, you had to have either 2 years of college or you had to pass an examination. And so I went down and took the examination and passed with flying colors. In fact, he told me I got the second highest score in the state of Connecticut. Of all the kids that had taken the test. Anyway, I was just tickled to death. I was going to be a pilot.
High governmental officials and military officials had publicly stated that they didn't say young men, they said black boys did not have the academic mentality or the physical requirements to learn to fly and fight in the air. And we knew that they didn't know what they were talking about.
I remember I was sitting in the Golden Walk in Clarksville, Tennessee. We just finished lunch, and there were sort of rumors going back and forth that yes, we were definitely going to go somewhere, but we didn't know what was going to happen. But it was all sort of hearsay and rumors. And we were paying a couple friends of mine, coworkers and I, were paying our bill at the restaurant, and they had CNN on one of the TVs, and we saw on the crawl that the 101st had deployment orders to Iraq. So we paid our bill and went back to work and started packing up all our stuff.
As this troop ship with maybe 1,800 men on it left the San Francisco harbor, we waved leisure boats and yachts and girls water skiing, and here we were going off to war, and there was nobody there to see us off, and you know, it was the contrast was extraordinary. Here everybody was business as usual, and here we were going off to war, and many of the men on that ship probably didn't return.
In the year 2000, Congress unanimously voted to create the Veterans History Project to preserve and archive the personal accounts of valor and sacrifice of the patriots that have served both on the battlefront and the home front during times of armed conflict and war.
I'm proud to be part of the Veterans History Project because I truly believe that the stories of the men and women who have served this nation so faithfully are a real treasure that needs to be preserved. I would say to those of you who have families, I particularly believe that this individual story of our service is a gift not only to our families but to the nation. And though some of those stories may not be as adventurous as we think they are, in the telling, it really does reflect the true meaning of what it is to be in the military and to serve in the defense of this nation.
It was very much like being in the States. This place was basically brand new. And they had American school teachers over there teaching the Army people. They would be assigned there for 1 or 2 years because they were occupation forces. Basically, they weren't fighting anybody, and they had their families over there. So it was a very strange situation. It was like probably being in England during World War II without the bombing. I mean, you lived in a nice place, and you ate good food and everything else, and then you flew your mission, got shot at, and came home and got right back to this nice place. So it was a real strange way to fight a war, but that's the way it was, and that's the way it is in the Air Force, really.
The Germans' first question they said in German was, "Do I have a pistol?" And I told them, no, I didn't have a pistol. I opened up at that time we had electric suits. I opened up my jacket and showed them that the only thing I had on was a, white long johns. And that was underneath the electric suits. And I was telling them that I didn't have them. And he was sort of angry and disturbed and everything else. And he kept saying, Fliege nix Pistola. That was my first German lesson.
Guy by the name of Pancho. I'm sorry I never got his name. I didn't live with him too long. And I was teamed up with him when we buckled down in the foxhole. I stayed in the foxhole about 3 days, 2 days, whatever, the whole battle. And one of his great ones was when we came back at the rest up, somebody said, "Hey, Pancho, you still with us?" And so Pancho says, "Oh yeah, old Bush and I," he says, "we keep our eyes open, we watch the bullets go by, and we don't see Pancho, we don't see Bush, so we let them go by." But the sad part, the next day he got killed.
I told you of the mortar attacks and the rocket attacks and the RPGs shot at us and the sniper fire, even though they didn't hit none of us, which thank God. But they say that your life flashes in front of your eyes and you don't have time. There's not time for that. During one rocket attack, myself and 4 others almost died. Though we sustained no injuries, it was the closeness of a rocket impact. And there's no time for your life to flash in front of your eyes. There really isn't. You react according to your training. That's what I did.
We did liberate the Vobelen concentration camp in Germany. I forget the town at the moment, and I remember the worst part of it was there was a big room there with a lot of empty clogs, wooden clogs that were worn by the prisoners. It was a starvation camp, and it just was. What we didn't see was worse than what we might have seen, because it was just indicated all these people who had been there had been starved to death.
You know, there's a lot of situations where we'd be flying around and you'd see people in the field and they'd be, you know, everybody pointed at us anyways, but, you know, you're going 200 miles an hour. Sometimes it's hard to tell if they're pointing a rifle at you, if they're pointing their finger at you, if they're just holding a stick. I think the closest I came to accidentally shooting somebody over there was, we were flying and there was some guy in his field and he had an irrigation pipe, and it wasn't too long after 431 had been shot down. We couldn't tell what it was. You know, all the pilots I ever flew with said, "Hey, you're going to see the people first," because, you know, we were supposed to ask permission to fire from the pilot in command, because ultimately it's their responsibility anything that happens. My pilots always told me, like, if you think we're in danger, do what you got to do. But there was this one farmer walking through his field with an irrigation pipe, pointed up at us, and I hesitated just a second, and, you know, got a second look at it and realized that it wasn't, you know, something dangerous. But that guy came pretty close that day.
I remember one Marine from Texas, and his bed was right in front of my desk, and he was a handsome, big fellow, sort of reddish blonde, curly hair, and he was paralyzed from his chest down from a spinal injury. That was the unit I was in, neurosurgical problems. And they just did emergency work really there, get them ready then to fly them either to Hawaii or home to California. So he was there. They tried to get him in condition for transporting. But I remember one day a group of the fellows got around, patients too who were ambulatory, singing The Yellow Rose of Texas. And he was singing with them. It was very touching.